Even watching like the Halloween box mac whatever, and EJU as the cop was fucking hilarious. I love it. That shit was so
I filmed it too. I used anamorphic lenses, real anamorphic lenses.
That's right.
I don't know what an anamorphic lens is, but it sounds fancy.
It's an oval lens that it gives a wider view. Oh. It's a cinemascope. You might have heard the term cinemascope. A lot of modern films and old films are shot in cinemascope. So it's just a cinematic way of shooting things.
What would be like the difference between an anamorphic lens and say like a fisheye lens? Or
a fisheye lens is like it's like an extreme wide.
Okay.
That is it does the distortion that makes it look bulgy, like the spherical bulging. But it's a very wide lens. Anamorphic lens, it basically it takes a wider view of the image and it squeezes it onto kind of the it was usually 35 millimeter, and that's kind of more of like a more square frame, but it gets a wider image and squeezes it on there, and then you have to like in post you have to de-squeeze it so that it stretches out.
Weird.
It's a way to get more into the frame than you normally would be, and it reads cinematic language to a lot of people because it was used in cinema for so long.
It sounds very expensive.
It is actually very expensive.
As soon as you're describing like all the process you have to go to even get it on into the editing bay, you have to de-squeeze it. No, it's like, yeah, that's expensive. That sounds like $10,000 right there.
Yeah, the lenses themselves are very expensive, and usually you use spherical lenses, and anamorphic lenses are kind of like oval.
Oh, but didn't you get the lens from your job at the time?
No, that's something the lens I used for that was actually a modified projector lens, because when you used to shoot these on film and they would squeeze the anamorphic image onto film, and then to project it, you actually had to de-squeeze it with an anamorphic lens. But if you took that lens, you turned it on its side, and I did a modification to actually, you could be able to focus. You can turn into something you can actually shoot with. Anyway.
I need to get something like that for my Blackmagic. Have you heard of that brand?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I got the Blackmagic 6K, and it's really cinematic, but man, the frame, like I don't know all the particular like correct language for when it comes to film, so forgive me, but the framing of it or whatever, it's really like it's shit. Like I'm using like a kit lens from my Canon 70D, which is a good all-purpose thing, but when you put it on the Blackmagic, it just like the shot is like so like it's
like tight, because it's probably like a micro four thirds sensor, which is basically. So most film is 35 millimeter, and so it's even smaller than that. So yeah, it's like a crop of that. You could call it.
So like then you can buy this speed ring or something, and to give it like
a speed booster or something.
Yeah, that thing. It's like a fucking metal circle, and it's like $700 because they know people will pay it.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated than that because it has like lenses in that circle. Yeah.
Welcome back to Nerd Talk, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about cameras and the people who love them. We're here with Frankie and EJ.
But yeah, the Blackmagic is also, it usually shoots more flat, so you have to do more color correction and post.
It's very, very desat, which I don't mind. It kind of like right out of the box, if you hit record, it instantly looks like an indie film, Like,
yes, it's very flat, which if you do less color correction, and most consumer cameras shoot very it's more contrasty and makes everything look good like a phone camera.
Mm-hmm. They tell you when we shot our fourth movie, which is about a musician, you may enjoy that film. Especially there's content in there about losing bandmates and stuff, but that was one where we thought we were going to shoot it on Blackmagic 4K because this is 2013. And consumer 4K products were brand spanking new, and we thought we were going to be kind of cutting edge. And then it fell through. Blackmagic didn't ship the camera, and so we needed an alternative. And at the time, the Canon 5D in the photography world was the big hot thing for its price and for its full sensor. And so we said, oh, well, yeah, we could actually shoot this movie on the 5D probably. And they had released, or you could hack the firmware to use this kind of open source firmware that let you shoot in completely raw, like whatever it was, 8-bit raw. So.
Yeah, I think it's even more than that. I think it's like 14-bit. It's like crazy. Yeah. It's a lot of.
So we knew that we were going to be doing a lot of run and gun, that like lights might, that color correction was going to save us. And we thought, if we can maximize as much of the image as possible for color correction, that'd be great. And so and it shot on compact flash. It didn't shoot on SD. And compact flash, like I think, I don't remember what our largest cards were, but not huge. But get this.
Wars.
I think it was like probably at the time it would be like 32 gigabytes or something.
Yeah. So it was 1 gig per 10 seconds.
Yeah, see, that's why to this day I don't fuck with 4K.
It ended up being 1080. So because the resolution really, you can shoot a reasonably compressed, H.264 4K. So we ended up shooting 1080 because that's all that the 5D supported. But it was the fucking RAW that really, it's the lossless codec.
Yeah, it's like you get all the color information. It's crazy.
But it's a good looking movie.
And I remember at the time it didn't do audio, so you had to sync sound everything. It was like film.
It was like shooting on film. And also the cinematographer decided to use like vintage lenses. So like not Canon's. This is another benefit of the 5D.
By virtue of James's How to Make a Nerd video that he did like 10 or so years ago that actually got me into becoming a YouTuber, I went out and I bought his same Panasonic HVX whatever. This is the same exact one that he used to use or whatever. And it came with this fucking huge bag of cables. And it was like, even back then, because this thing was like outdated even back then when I got it, like in 2015. It only goes up to like 1080i. So interlace, It could do 720p, but it could only do 1080i. And it was like, even back then, it was like, I think $2,000 I paid for it. Something like that. It was insane.
What does it shoot on? Like card or what?
It shoots on these pain in the ass.
Oh, is it the P2 cards?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, the P2 cards.
Yes.
Yeah. And vintage. So to get the film off of here, I had to go through the USB, and it was such a pain in the ass using this camera. But I will say, to this day, this camera does have more of a cinematic quality to it. Like it kind of has like I don't know. It just looks. Like I shot some of our music videos and I would use this for certain scenes, and it just has a different look than like, say, my Canon 70D,
Yeah.
I don't know, but fun fact, I tried to get rid of it on eBay a long time ago, and nobody wants that camcorder anymore, so I'm just stuck with it.
Well, eventually, wait another 10 years. These things have a way of, once everybody throws theirs out, suddenly it'll have a little value.
Yeah. Because like as a result of like doing all these YouTube videos and having a band, there came a point to where it's like, well, shit, I can make my own music video. So then I got into filmmaking. But
so I mean, you're a competent video fellow. When did that all start?
2015. That's when I acquired the MacBook. I copied everything James Rolfe used. Like I was like, all right, he's got a MacBook, he's got Final Cut Pro. He's got the Panasonic HVX. I'm gonna get everything he has. My credit card was like, I'm not rich or anything. Like my credit card was like sky high. I didn't want there to be any reason why I couldn't get just as successful as James Rolfe. I didn't want technology holding me back. And then I realized if I make content that no one wants to see, then it really doesn't matter how fancy my camera is. So that was kind of a lesson learned.
Yeah, it's one of those barrier of entry type things. It's just a first impression.
That's why I understand. Like you guys made all those movies, and like the reason why it never even occurred to me to like fuck around with cinema was it was just so cost prohibitive to do the stuff that I would want to do. Because like we all have those Sony home video cameras that look like shit. They shoot on 480 and they don't look great, but they're fine for Christmas morning or whatever. And I didn't want to shoot on one of those because like that's just going to clearly look like crap. And everything that was like prosumer level was like thousands of dollars. So it was like I was like, well, I guess I just can't afford to be a filmmaker then.
Well, I owe everything to John Hunt. Like I was 14 and he was 20 or whatever, and he was a nerd. and he wasn't especially creative, although he's a musician too, and a really good one. So yeah, it was like a musician who also was like an audiophile who was kind of into videography. And there was this 14-year-old kid hanging around him who wanted to make some movies. And he was like, okay. And it was because I wanted to do stuff. And it was because he had a bit of extra money, cause he worked a full-time job because he was like an adult, but he lived at home.
Yeah.
And so he was like, oh, I'll buy this new, this thing that shoots 24p. Can you believe it shoots 24p? And, we'll make some short films on the weekends. And I think if it hadn't been for that, had it not been for like this guy that was enabling me, I don't know. I mean, it probably ends somewhere kind of fast,
Yeah. I mean, because like comparatively musical instruments, like you can get a shitty like Fender Squier, which I feel like the guitar player from Rex Viper played, for like $130 for like a starter kit, and it even comes with a little amplifier, which also is the same size amps they used on stage at the Rex Viper show. But I digress. So yeah, I mean, the barrier of entry there is like much smaller, to get into music. But yeah, I don't know. I watched that video, and at that time in my life, I was like, I need something else in my life besides just music, because I was doing dancing. Dancing with Ghosts had just started, and it was just me. And it's like I was living at home at the time. I was and still am a karaoke DJ. So with that job, you get paid decent, but you only have to work 12, 15 hours a week. I had no wife, no kids. So
wow.
My expenses were very low. So I was like, I have the time and the money to get into something else that's besides music. And that's when I was like, you know what? Why not me with a YouTube channel? Why can't I be,
love it,
the irritated game guy,
It's funny because I run, when like we have this Discord, and we're old by comparison to a lot of the guys that have shown up. And in other words, there's guys in their mid 20s, late 20s, that kind of thing. We're 37, and
I'm 34.
Okay, perfect. We can have this threesome.
We can have it.
You're of age. But they like we had Jason on last week, and there's a few other guys like that where they never wanted to be filmmakers. They wanted to be content creators. Like since they were young, it was all about internet content. Yeah. I remember seeing James for the first time and thinking, this is fucking novel, because instead of moving out to LA and doing that whole thing, this guy is doing it in his bedroom. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I had the same thought. And you said in your video, you said something to the extent of, wow, I this is just something I watch now. It's like a show, but I'm watching it on YouTube, and it just became this thing that, dude, the first I stumbled upon, I think it was his Terminator video when he did or the Schwarzenegger. That's what it was. The Schwarzenegger games, that episode. And first like 30 seconds, I was like, this guy is so cheesy. But then as I kept watching, I was like, dude, this is actually like a kind of like a show. Like I didn't know you were allowed to, because like all I looked up on YouTube was music videos and like memes or those meme videos like Chocolate Rain and all that shit.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know you were allowed to do your own show.
Exactly.
And
I think my earliest memory of like people doing not like original content online was Channel 101. Is that what it was called? Channel 101. Do you remember that? It was like a website that had original content. Like one of them was like, had like Jack Black in it. Like there was people just taking handy cams and making content.
It still exists. Channel101.org. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, they had a lot of early. It was an early internet thing. It was before even YouTube, so I think it was like Real Player embedded in there and shit.
Yeah, I remember those days.
And I bought a handy cam in 2003 because I liked comedy, so I wanted to make sketches. So I got the mini DV camera, and then when James started making content, I was like, oh well, I already have a mini DV camera, maybe I could start making stuff for the internet. And that's when I started. It's awful, the stuff I made. But
we'll get comments fairly regularly on weekly that are like, imagine having to talk about somebody that we all know to get views. And I'm like, well, I hate to break this to you, but like talking about Nintendo is kind of a similar concept, which is you're talking about something everybody already knows. They wouldn't otherwise watch you, right?
It's like, I can't believe they would shit on somebody for views. It's like,
He literally shat on Bugs Bunny.
He shat on Bugs Bunny. Shitty games. Come on.
I never took a shit on the man's face. Only metaphorically.
Like, aren't there game developers behind all the games he shat on?
Well, I know in their minds, no. These are nameless, faceless IPs that have been out for decades. So, that's fine. But this is just support. And, I said in whatever video I did about you guys, I think it's like James had been around for so long, and like he flawlessly avoided being in the crosshairs of internet drama, unlike literally every other YouTuber that's gotten popular. And it was almost like amazing. It was like, wow, like how, like everyone, Doug Walker, all of them, they all at one point or another got into internet drama, and James was like that one guy where it's like, don't fuck with Bimmy, because he's the sacred cow, he's the one that stays out of it.
Guru. All the drama washed over him.
Right.
The closest he got was the Ghostbusters.
I'm not. And we all commended him for not addressing it in the slightest. Whereas like a guy like Mike Matei wouldn't be able to help himself, but he didn't address it. And at the time, I thought, I was like, the way that this guy stays out of drama is must be strategic on his part. I thought he was exercising good leadership skills or something. And it turned out it's probably more a product of his antisocial,
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it, to where it's just like, I can't see James like taking on the character of the nerd in some kind of flame war in the comments section, like I just don't see that happening. Like it's almost like as soon as the recording button is pushed, as soon as the recording stops, he becomes James Rolfe again. And, that it's weird though that he was able to just like manifest that character and do it so well for so long, because like that is like not at all anything how he is, and we saw that when he started doing like the rental reviews and stuff like that. He's a very meek, timid guy, and when he's not on script, he's just out in the water. He's like helpless,
I think genetically he had some kind of transformation in the past 5 years or something, like, because if you really do, if you go back to like the Addams Family episode or whatever, and he's like, more like your ass, he's a different human being.
I think it's a shitload of fuck. I think you better shut your ass.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.